even sure if he did actually spend some time in jail.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm not quite
Because
sure,
CZ
Joe.
actually
But
went to
yeah,
jail, didn't he?
yes, he
CZ
did.
properly,
He was in jail for like 4 months. Yeah.
yeah. But he just did press ups or something, um, and planned his billions, and how much higher he'd go up the Forbes rich list. So, okay, moving on from Arthur, because you mentioned something interesting about Bitcoin as money, and as you know, I'm an advocate for that. I mean, you are too, to an extent, and you, of course, South African. You've had a lot of South African coverage with your show Chain Reaction. I was about to call it Chain Jewel, which is a completely different Bitcoin game. Now, what on earth is going on in South Africa? I know we've only got 10 minutes left, but there are thousands of merchants now on BTC Map. There are maybe 10 or 12 Bitcoin circular economies or Bitcoin communities across the country. And it seems to be that the flames of Bitcoin are really raging strong in South Africa. As a native South African, I know that you are living in your adopted country, the Netherlands, but as a native SAFA that continues to dominate the rugby world, why are you also dominating the Bitcoin world?
So, I mean, the long and short of it here is I'm not going to talk about the circular economies because you've done way more, in-field reporting than I have there. But the reason we're seeing this huge explosion in the amount of vendors that are accepting Bitcoin is a couple of integrations. And you mentioned them earlier, Money Badger, which have, built some, Bitcoin basically payment rails. And they've begun integrating these with a number of really popular payment services in South Africa. So one of the main ones was Money Badger connecting to Zappa, which was like a QR code scanning payment service. And they have thousands of vendors that use Zappa as a payment service. So through Money
Have you
Badger,
used it
you could
before?
go.
Have you
Yeah,
used?
yeah. I used to
Okay,
use Zappa all the time. I mean, I go have breakfast, have a coffee, sit down and work, and get to the pay point and just scan the QR code, pay what I owe, and walk out. And through that integration now, if you have a Lightning wallet or whatever, you can just pay with Sats, and the software will do the rest, right? I think one of the other big, well, it is the biggest reason why Bitcoin is payments are taking off so widely is Pick n Pay, which is one of South Africa's biggest retailers. You think of any of the big one, whatever, Sainsbury's in the UK, or Aldi, Lidl. Imagine any of those stores
Walmart
allowing
in the
you
US,
to Walmart in the US, allowing you to just pay with Bitcoin. So Pick n Pay is, millions of South Africans go to Pick n Pay every day. And if you use Bitcoin, you can pay with Bitcoin at the checkout for just everyday groceries.
And with Pick n Pay, weirdly, they are also the main shirt sponsor of the South African rugby team.
Precisely, yeah. There you go. So it's all like we've got to sneak in the golden Bitcoin logo, and then we're winning big time. There was another bit of news that came out today actually, that Money Badger had integrated with another payment service that I actually don't know, Scan to Pay. It wasn't around when I was in South Africa. I've been living in the Netherlands now for 3 years, so it's not a service that I'm familiar with. But again, essentially unlocking 650,000 merchants that use Scan to Pay. So just another huge integration that allows people to pay with Bitcoin. And for people out there watching, like you mentioned, Joe, I've been chatting to quite a few of these, big name South African Bitcoiners that are doing different things. And what it all comes down to is South Africa, like a lot of these other African countries or developing nations, has a lot of issues with poverty. It's got high corruption. It does, on the other hand, have a very strong financial system and a very good central bank, as good as central banks can be. But their monetary policy is pretty good. So while $1 will get you around 18 Rand, the purchasing power of the Rand is not terrible, but it has been inflating over time. So it's just getting more and more expensive to buy groceries and all that kind of thing. And South Africans, are very, very savvy when it comes to these things. And they're also not shy to try new things. And I believe Luno kind of estimate that there's around 8 to 10 million cryptocurrency users. And I think most of these people started with Bitcoin because when Luno rolled out in South Africa, and Luno's a cryptocurrency exchange and wallet service, one of the big two, Luno and Vela, when they first rolled out in South Africa, it was Bitcoin and ZAR, South African Rand trading pair, So
Yeah.
Bitcoin was the original on ramp, and that's why a lot of people use Bitcoin. So I think there's a lot of people in South Africa that use Bitcoin or have Bitcoin, and they're not shy to use it as money, and they have the ability to use it as money. So yeah, I mean, like that's why we were running stories saying, South Africa is the next Bitcoin country, because I think it is. Like you can pay almost anywhere now using Bitcoin. And whether or not the merchants care or know what it is, the infrastructure in the back end allows you to do it, right? And like you and I both know that's the biggest hurdle to Bitcoin adoption, is like removing the complexity away. And if you're using fiat or whatever, like I should just be able to tap or scan a QR code and the rest happens in the background. And most people should be okay with that. So, I mean, that's the long and short of it, but it's really great to see.
Yeah, no, it's a very, very good response. Well, you covered all bases there. One thing that I want to question on, it's kind of related to central banking, is tax. Now, South Africa has, like the formal economy and the informal economy, and obviously an informal economy, for want of a better word, it's the black market, but it's not the black market, because that implies that it's like dodgy or wrong. Yet, millions of people across South Africa live cash-based lives where they're never ever going to declare this income or this money that's circulating. That's just how it is, right? It's very, very difficult to formalize meaning basically tax a lot of these transactions and to tax this in a way. But is the Bitcoin payments and the Bitcoin money in South Africa just going to fall into this sort of informal space and become another sort of South African-esque way of transacting? Is that also why it kind of works there? Because a lot of go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, I think there's an element of that, but I mean, like the South African Revenue Service is pretty clear that it doesn't recognize any cryptocurrencies as legal tender, and things like Bitcoin are classified as assets or stocks. So it's
okay.
They're treated as like securities essentially. So if you buy Bitcoin and you make profit and you sell it later, you pay capital gains tax. Or if you're getting paid in Bitcoin, you need to declare income tax. So if I was getting paid in Bitcoin every month, and I got a capital gains on it, you'd have to declare the capital gain and then obviously pay the income tax if you're earning your salary in Bitcoin. So it is pretty clear, and that's probably one of the reasons why there has been a lot of uptake, is that like the regulator was pretty quick to say, like, we classify this as securities and it will be treated as such. So if you use them, if you buy and sell it or whatever, you're going to have to pay capital gains tax, or you're going to have to pay income on that. Whereas like loads of other countries just didn't have anything. So no one knew where they stood, and that's always a difficult position. I think it's kind of different to the States, right? Where like the proposal for this like de minimis, number where people would be able to use Bitcoin for payments under $1,000 and then not have to worry about the complexities of declaring capital gains or whatever, would be fantastic. In South Africa, it's pretty clear. Like if you use your Bitcoin and stuff, you're gonna have to you're gonna have to sit down and spend a lot of time on a spreadsheet figuring out how much you owe the tax man. I like that is the difficulty, but at least it's pretty clear.
Yeah. And I'm sure that there are obviously thousands of South Africans in these circular economies who are sitting down at the end of every day to make sure that they're paying the right amount of rand to the taxman. I'm sure that's definitely the case. And it's,
what I will say is that you should have Stafford Massey, come and join your show. They launched the first Bitcoin treasury company in South Africa that's trading on the South African Stock Exchange, and he explains all of this a lot more eloquently than me. And South Africa's got a huge informal economy that only uses cash. I mean, if you look at the taxi economy in South Africa, it's a $1 billion industry, and it's all cash, Joe. So that the government's not making a cut out of that, and it's one of those things where like it's such a huge industry and it's so informal, and it is run by some pretty scary people. Like government's not going to go there and force these guys to start, using electronic money that they can trace, because people are going to get killed.
It's mafia gang-esque,
Precisely.
Yeah, tricky. I'm aware that you've got. Are you hosting your show at 0:00?
We are hosting it at 0:00, but I'll start a little bit late for you because I love you that much.
Thanks, mate. Even when you're jet lagged and tired in a random airport in Amsterdam, still happy to give some time to talk Bitcoin. That's very kind. I appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, so you've got circular economies. You've got the new South African Treasury Company. You've got this clever workaround way to spend Bitcoin pretty much anywhere in South Africa. What's missing, or does it not need anything else because you've already got the key ingredients for Bitcoin to thrive there? Do you need the regulators to be like, actually, no, we're going to remove capital gains, or do you think it's already like enough?
I don't think they'll ever remove the capital gains. I think they view Bitcoin as like a commodity versus versus money. That would be the best thing. Is eventually if the Reserve Bank and the government recognize Bitcoin as legal tender, because then that changes the game altogether. I think it'll happen eventually. I think it's going to happen all around the world. Like El Salvador were the first people to do it, and a lot of other people don't want to. But like if you speak to most Bitcoin maxis and stuff, they still kind of see Bitcoin as a commodity. But we know that it serves the function of money as well. But the way that the protocol works makes it more of a commodity than money as it stands right now. But when it's ubiquitous and you're using it to pay. So yeah, I think there is a lot of regulatory work that needs to be done there. More than anything, I think it still comes down to like an education thing, just teaching people what Bitcoin is and that it's money. But most South Africans understand how cash works, and they understand that purchasing power diminishes over time. Even people that live in poverty that don't understand that much,
because the rand, I mean, you mentioned it is semi-stable. The central bank there is doing an okay job, but it's still, when you measure it in the dollar, which is also inflating at an increasing rate, it's not one of the horrendous African currencies like the rand or the to an extent that, sorry, did I say the rand? I meant the Zimbabwean dollar or one of the East African currencies. It's not as big as, say, the CFA, like the West African or the Central African bloc currencies, which are pegged, I'm making air quotes there, to the euro, but it still has sort of bouts of inflationary periods, doesn't it? I remember like the first time I went to South Africa when I was like 12 or 13, the rand since then has lost like something like 75% of its value compared to just the pound, and the pound is also losing its value. So I think that people understand currencies and inflation differently in developing countries such as South Africa than in the West. In the West we are a bit, we're safe. We are, I don't know how to describe it. Like the pandemic sort of woke up a lot of people to this reality that currencies do inflate, and that it does to some extent come from quantitative easing or money printing or whatever you want to call it. But in developing countries, it's just a day-to-day reality. That you should be saving your money in something that isn't the local currency, because the local currency might fall with the next government or the next uprising, whatever it is.
Yeah, precisely. Yeah, I just think the other final hurdle is just making it a lot easier to use Bitcoin as money, and better applications. Like I still think, Joe, like until we get to the point where I just like double click my phone, open Apple Pay and tap, and I've paid in sats. Like until we get to that, people aren't gonna be paying that much with Bitcoin. But also just changing that perception as well, that Bitcoin's just a store of value, and this is something that we actually spoke to Money Badger's founder about, and I guess Herman from Bitcoin Ikasi. Getting people to move their sats around in a circular economy gets people to understand that it is money, and it holds its value way better than fiat currency, just because of the way the protocol works, and it's finite and it's incredibly hard. It's impossible to just create a load of more Bitcoin on a short time frame, because the protocol doesn't work like that, But that also just requires people understanding monetary policy or economics, and most people don't, and most people don't give a stuff about how money works, They just get money in their bank account, and then they never really thought too hard about it losing its purchasing power. So I'm still very, very bullish on Bitcoin in South Africa, and I really want to go back in January to Bitcoin Ikasi's I forget the name of the conference now that Herman's going to be hosting, but I want to go adopting. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Is the South African Treasury Company going to be there as well?
There will be, yeah.
What's it called? Is it Altvest? Is it that's the name of it, or?
Yeah. So Altvest Capital became what is it? African Bitcoin Corporation.
ABC.
Yeah. ABC, exactly.
I mean, there is also the ABC, which is the African Bitcoin Conference, which is in Mauritius in December, which is an interesting place for a Bitcoin conference, because it's like in a honeymoon destination, And Mauritius for me is like
used to go and work, right?
I know, yeah, it's insane. Like, would you like a once in a lifetime trip to this beautiful island in the Indian Ocean? Yes, please. So yeah, but I'm interested to see what work is going on there. But yeah, I mean, Africa as a continent is fascinating. South Africa is this wonderful mix where you have like this sort of Afrikaans population, you have the black population, you have the sort of indentured or Indian population in this melting pot where everyone's trying to like hustle and get by. And as a result, you have these amazing sort of experiments going on. You have this incredible sense of innovation. And then because the median age is so low, right? The median age in South Africa must be about 25. I know across the continent it's like 18,
it's a very
19.
young, very young population.
And the key ingredient, harking back to when I introduced this conversation, is that you have some amazing mess we don't really have. Like the South African rugby team is an incredible thing that a lot of people in the street can point to and say, yo, I want to be like Sia Khaleesi, you know, or, you know, you mentioned the head of Old West Capital, like he also grew up in a township and now he's worth, I don't know how many Bitcoins he's worth, but he's probably quite wealthy. Yeah,
a lot more than me.
Yeah. So, you know, for a country that is so complicated and so challenged in many ways, there's also a lot of really nice things to point to and say, yo, that's progress. You know, this is some nice building blocks so that the South Africa we see in 2050 will be, you know, perhaps much more developed, much more advanced than the UK of 2050 because the rate of decline is different to our rate of decline.
And also if that many people are just getting onto a Bitcoin standard from an individual level, they're going to be far more wealthy and have far more abundance than people that are just sitting on dollars, pounds, euros, South African rands, whatever fiat shitcoin you happen to be subjected to.
Yeah. No, it could happen. Hey, I'm aware that you need to go. Do you need to go? In which case, Gareth hosts Chain Reaction. He's also at Cointelegraph. You can find him at Gazajenks on Twitter. Anything you want to shill before you go?
Just the show, and give me a follow on X. I've been working pretty hard on producing a lot of good content, and I've been very much focused on Joe, like on Bitcoin storytelling, and inspired by you doing that as well, Joe. So you know you've got a good friend and a longtime fan in me, and it's been fun to do this. And hopefully you get me on the show every week, and we can talk about Bitcoin.
That'd be great. Hey, that'd be really good. Yeah, for
sure.
Be good. Okay, awesome. Cheers, mate. Enjoy your show this afternoon, and I'm going to solo. Thanks again, guys. Cheers, buddy. Okay, back to just me. I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Gaz. He is one of the very hardworking people at Cointelegraph, who's also a closet Bitcoiner. Don't tell anyone, but yeah, who's actually a Bitcoiner. One of the few at Cointelegraph. Now, as he was saying, there is a huge amount of Bitcoin activity in South Africa. Should we dive into that now, or shall we dive into the other stories I had planned? First, let's see if anyone's leaving a comment. I'm going to ask my editor to leave a comment. Firstly, can you leave a comment on the live stream? Here we go. He should do that because it's not part of his job, but it's certainly a nice thing that I would like him to do. And then we can see if comments work on this live stream. The other thing I wanted to discuss this afternoon is, of course, Bitcoin as money. So we'll come to that a little bit later. You know what? Let's park the South African content. Come to that in a moment. And firstly, I want to talk to you through some of the articles that have piqued my interest and some of the articles that I think we need to discuss and dissect. The first one is about how Luxembourg has adopted a Bitcoin treasury strategy. But I'm gonna show you my screen for that. So we're gonna go here and boom. Oh, is that how we do it? I'm not sure that's how we should do it. We should do it like that. No. I now understand how we should do it. We're gonna separate windows. Okay, so let's try this a different way. Like that. Beautiful. So the first article I wanted to talk to you about is that Luxembourg claimed bragging rights as the first Eurozone nation to invest in Bitcoin. Now, the interesting thing about this article is that it's from CoinDesk, which, let's be honest, the reporting has gone downhill recently. And when you check the source of this information, that the European nation's intergenerational sovereign wealth fund, try saying that after a few beers, has invested 1% of its holdings in Bitcoin. Why so bearish? They presented this as fact, and they put the source here. When you click the source and we go to verify where it came from, it says page not found. But apparently it's a LinkedIn post from this guy called Bob Kiefer. Not sure how you pronounce that, but we'll go with Kiefer. And so I was like, okay, well, we need to go to Bob Kiefer's profile to understand the veracity of this. So we checked out Bob, finally got to his profile, and finally saw how they got this 1% from. And you can see it's from a LinkedIn post. They haven't actually reached out to Bob to double check it. And it's just a random sort of LinkedIn update to show, yeah, listen, mate, we've bought 1% of an ETF. How important is this? I don't think it's that important because Luxembourg is not a very significant country in the context of Europe. Luxembourg, if you're wondering, is absolutely tiny. I've actually been a couple of times randomly. But yeah, we're talking 600,000 people. We're talking an area of just 2,500 kilometers. And it's sort of between France, Belgium, Germany, and a lot of the time I think it's Basel, but it's not, because it's sort of nestled by Switzerland. But in fact, it's up in this corner of northeastern France. It's tiny, but yeah, it's a nice thing that Luxembourg is taking Bitcoin a bit more seriously. It bought an ETF, so clearly it's not holding its own keys. Does that mean that Belgium, the Netherlands, and Germany and so on are going to take it more seriously? No. Luxembourg has always been quite innovative, and it's always been one of those countries to push the boundaries, particularly when it comes to finance and investment, because it's such a small area that has very few natural resources. So it needs to find ways to diversify its economy. So naturally, it's going to be one of those first movers when it comes to things like Bitcoin. And when you look at the actual sort of staff at the Luxembourg ministries, they are all quite young and they look quite millennial, which is another good sign and probably a reason why they're probably keen to invest in Bitcoin, because typically Bitcoin investors skew a bit younger. So yeah, it's another positive sign on the way to greater levels of Bitcoin adoption. But how important is it? Nah, I'm not so sure. Okay, in mainstream news, what I wanted to talk to you about today was that I was giving out some Bitcoin in a place called Caldas da Rainha recently. Now, Caldas da Rainha is a tiny town in the central north of Portugal. And it's a town that you might visit if you've been to Portugal a few times, but it's not exactly a tourism hotspot. While I was there, I was interviewing people on the streets about Bitcoin. And I spoke to an array of people, from an elderly lady to some students who are about 16, 17. And we asked them about Bitcoin, and we asked them if they've ever used Bitcoin before, if they want to spend Bitcoin. Now, what's interesting here is that they all brought up this one weird article. They all brought up that a suspected crypto scammer linked to 580 million, yeah, that's right, $580 million in stolen funds was arrested in Bangkok. This made the crypto news, of course, but it also made the mainstream news in Portugal. If I type crypto scammer, do we have some? We don't have some in Portuguese because my VPN is okay. I mean, this is a Portuguese website, but yeah, there's not a. I need to put my Google in Portuguese to see this. Okay, you're just going to have to take my word for it that Portuguese news were also talking about it, because it made Portuguese newspapers, and as a result, people on the streets in Portugal, that's their most recent touch point, and that's what they thought when I was trying to pay them in Bitcoin. They were like, "Oh, are you a scammer like that guy who got locked up in Thailand?" And it wasn't small change, 500 million euros or $580 million is a huge amount of money, massive, absolutely massive. And yeah, it's just a real shame that the mainstream. I mean, it does have a duty to report about these kind of stories, but unfortunately the mainstream focuses on this, and they get into their heads that scamming is what Bitcoin is all about, which it clearly isn't. I mean, separately in the UK, we had on the BBC the Chinese woman who was convicted after the world's biggest Bitcoin seizure. Now, this is a massive story, and the interesting thing that this case has been going for more than 5 years. So presumably Bitcoin has increased in multiple X's since she was found to be evading arrest. And she was described as the goddess of wealth, despite the fact she lived in a relatively modest property in North London, which, let's be honest, is probably worth 2 million, because that is a really expensive part of London. But it's it's not where you expect the goddess of wealth to be living. Why does this matter? Well, again, the mainstream touch points about Bitcoin are about theft, they're about scams, and they're about fraud. So we've got a long way to go before those sort of happy or positive stories of, say, oh, Bitcoin mining helped to make the world a bit more green, or Bitcoin mining helped to, make renewable energy projects more profitable, or Bitcoin transfers increased 20% across sub-Saharan Africa. Whatever it may be, these stories which actually underline Bitcoin's use are sadly not quite getting into the mainstream. And as a result, the man on the street tends to have that story front of mind when it comes to talking about Bitcoin. I had another example here of the Portuguese man who's arrested in Bangkok for allegedly orchestrating this $500 million cryptocurrency and credit card scheme. Interestingly, like BitGet and Decrypt reported these stories, and some crypto outlets actually choose not to cover crypto scams, crypto fraud, crypto thefts anymore, because the mainstream is already doing such a good job of it. It's literally the case. Okay, I'm going to go check on the live chat just now and see how we're doing. Maybe we've got someone who's commented. Maybe it's my editor. Wouldn't that be nice? Let's go check. There is still no comment. Why is that? Why have I not got anyone commenting? Maybe if I check my actual YouTube, would it be there? Okay. I don't think I have any comments. Well, that is a real shame. If you'd like to comment, please let me know. I will. I don't know why I can't see them. That's really strange. And I was getting a call at the same time. That's interesting. But I believe that I'm still live on my YouTube channel. I should be. I don't. Oh, I am. Great. Beautiful. Please let me know if you're watching live, because I'd love to see your comments. I don't know why I can't see it, but this is also a first time. Oh shit! I do have comments. That's weird. I just couldn't see them in my my application. Now I just look like an absolute dickhead on live. Great. Okay, we have some comments. We have adopting Bitcoin 2026, African Bitcoin Corporation Limited. Amazing. Who else we've got in here? We've got Joel Santos saying hi, hi Maxis, and we've got your boy who is watching live from Chicago. Chicago, amazing. What's the weather like there? Is it freezing? It's October in Chicago. Presumably it's quite cold. Thank you very much for dropping in. I am going to be doing more and more live streams over the coming days and coming weeks in a partnership with Roxxon. So yeah, I am going to be dissecting the news. I'm going to be showing what I'm up to, and I'm going to be trying to share some notes of positivity, because Bitcoin is a really cool thing. But in order to show that it's a really cool thing, sometimes we've got to talk about the dark stuff. Yeah, boy, it is nippy indeed in Chicago. I do hear. I've never actually been. Family members have been, and I really want to go there. I want to do a lot of the US, but currently I can't visit the US, and I don't want to say on camera why I can't visit the US, but it's to do with doing journalism and Trump not liking it. Okay, so back to the stories that I thought were interesting this week. The next one was what I touched upon with the interview with Gareth Jenkinson, and it was about Arthur Hayes and Bitcoin. So if you're not familiar with Arthur Hayes, he is one of the OG Bitcoin billionaires. He has served time for some dodgy stuff that went on, but his jail time, I think, was mostly house arrest, and he basically just got ripped during that time. I've met him a couple of times at crypto conferences around the world. He tends to be a larger-than-life, charismatic, and fun to be around bloke, who then spends a lot of time doing some really degen stuff. He has regularly liquidated people in the pursuit of Ferraris and Lambos, but he also does do some excellent writing, which he shares on Medium. Now, this article I read prior to the show today, and the key thing to note, I've highlighted a few things here and there, but it's basically that we are entering the new world order, and Bitcoin cycles are mostly dictated by liquidity. He says the halving and the way in which a lot of maxis perceive the Bitcoin price, in that 6 to 18 months after the halving, we tend to set new all-time highs because there is a supply shock and this crunch of loads and loads of demand. And then, oh shit, the number of Bitcoin made every 10 minutes just went from 25 to 12 or 12 to 6 or 6 to 3, 3 being the number of Bitcoin mined every 10 minutes currently. And it's not to do with that, but it's actually to do with various liquidity cycles we've gone through over the past sort of 16 years. He notes the liquidity cycle of, the ICO cycle 2013, 2017, and that was by this China credit impulse. And now we're going into another sort of semi-quasi helicopter money period, and it's mostly due to US monetary policy. Chinese monetary policy is a driver to an extent of the current bull run, and I highlighted it somewhere on here. China entered bounce of deflation as judged by a negative credit impulse. Xi remained committed to reducing the price of housing and its importance to the Chinese economy. And with no other guidance or changes in the outlook for the US and Chinese monetary policy, I would agree with many crypto traders that the bull run is over. So there you go. He's a little bit bearish there, particularly when it comes to Chinese monetary policy. However, the rhetoric and recent actions by the Fed and PBOC augur otherwise. And this is when he goes mega bullish, basically saying, all hail the king, Bitcoin's gonna keep going up and up. And what I found kind of controversial is that he says that the 4-year cycles are over and that we are entering a period of effectively up only because liquidity is going to increase. So great news if you hold a bag of Bitcoin and you subscribe to Arthur Hayes' thinking. There was a really good summary by someone who I'm not a big fan of. Here you go. This is a crypto joker who actually did quite a good summary, and I'm going to very briefly read it to you. Basically, he says the 4-year cycle is dead and a new bear market is not around the corner. Arthur says Bitcoin doesn't pump because of halvings. It pumps when liquidity flows, like I just explained. And he also says that past crashes weren't caused by supply-demand cool-offs. They were caused by monetary tightening. I mean, read into that as you will. Right now, global liquidity is expanding again. I mean, we've seen this with stimulus checks being discussed in the US. We're seeing it with quantitative easing being discussed again in the UK and Europe. And yeah, the Fed is currently in the process of slightly cutting interest rates. Trump wants stimulus. Japan and China are easing too. He didn't really comment on that in the article, but I guess this is what Lark is adding. And ultimately, the money is about to get cheaper and plentiful. And that's why the real top isn't coming anytime soon. Does the mainstream agree? In my opinion, it does. We have The Guardian, the slightly left or very left, depending on your point of view, newspaper in the UK, calling for the debasement trade. Is that what's driving gold, Bitcoin, and shares to record highs? So we have like very mainstream, very center left or left wing newspaper publications talking about debasement. It's kind of wild, the language that's being used here, and it does chime in with Arthur's piece in that maybe we are entering a period of helicopter money, of more liquidity, and typically when Bitcoin tends to do quite well. I'm just going to jump into the comments again to see what everyone is saying, and maybe answer some questions too. Oh, cool, there are some questions. This is amazing. Hey guys, we have a genuine community. This is fun. The first question was from Amore Memes. Do you think the Lightning Network will be used as a stablecoin option for payments? To an extent, it already is. There are certain people who use stable sats, which is like a weird stablecoin derivative on Blink. I've seen a lot of people who use that. Basically, it means that in your Blink wallet, I'm not sponsored or affiliated, I just see this, you have your Bitcoin and you have your stable sats, and I'm doing stable sats as a quotation mark. Also, I should not share my screen when I'm talking like this. There you go. Beautiful. And in their apps, when they have stable sats, they are typically paying in Bitcoin stable sats, which is kind of like a stablecoin thing. So do I think like the Lightning Network will be used as a stablecoin for payments? It's already underway. Any other comments? Why is your image so distorted? That's a great question. Why is my image so distorted? Maybe we can sort that out. Should we go and check out under the hood what's going on here? Why is it doing that? Okay, that's zoomed in. We don't want that. Has that sorted out somewhat, or am I still mega distorted? Let's go and check. I'm just going to wait for the YouTube stream to load. But it could be that YouTube is cropping me or StreamYard is cropping me. I don't know, but I'm going to work on that for next time. Thank you for flagging it with me. The next question was from, and that was just a quick thank you to Bitflow for that question. The third question was, hey Joe, any thoughts on Gary Stevenson and his negative thoughts on BTC? That's the first bit. Why are the Greens, UK, and Labour, your party, not talking about it at all? Oh, your party, that must be the new centre-left party that popped up, that sort of sprung up from Labour. So first thoughts was on Gary Stevenson. Gary Stevenson is the former Citibank trader who spent some time in Japan trading. He's really into cycling, and he has quite a popular YouTube channel. Maybe I should show you guys that. I think he also had a best-selling book. Was it called The Trading Game or similar? Gary Stevenson. Let me see. Fuck me, he's got 1.5 million subscribers now. That is mental growth, given that, I mean, how many does Peter McCormack have as a comparison? Well, I can't see the number of subscribers he has. That's weird. Oh, he has 230,000 subscribers. Wow. So that's like less than a fifth of what Gary Stevenson had. That is interesting. Clearly, there is huge demand for his sitting in a kitchen with a notepad and a cup of tea and discussing like how fucked the economy is. That's literally what he does. He just talks to the camera about the economy, and he talks in a way that's like, all right, mate, basically the economy's fucked, and here's why. It's because I made loads of money as a trader. That's kind of how he talks. Not really. I went too cockney. So what are my thoughts on Gary? I mean, he is a bit of a zeitgeist now, right? He is appealing to a lot of people in a big way, and people must resonate with what he's saying. People must resonate with the idea that, well, what are his core thesis ideas? I mean, he is big on taxing the rich and generating wealth by taxing people more and more, which historically is incorrect. So, yeah, I'm actually like quite still shocked about that 1.5 million subscribers thing. I mean, that's just on YouTube. Presumably on, you know, Instagram and Twitter and elsewhere, he has even more subscribers. So that's actually kind of impressive. Like, kudos to him, but also Jesus Christ, that's not good, is it? Because a lot of people are going to be listening to that kind of rhetoric. There's also like some interesting concerns about his career in that I know actually a few people that work at Citi, and a lot of people have raised question marks, and there's quite a good deep dive article, I think, on The Guardian about where Gary Stevenson came from, how he sprung onto the scene. So was he, of course, like the most popular, the most profitable trader at Citibank when he was there. So yeah, he also has terrible thoughts on Bitcoin and crypto. He thinks Bitcoin is worth nothing, which is rubbish because it's clearly worth almost £100,000. Yeah, baby. And I'm trying to think if I've actually answered your question. So any thoughts on Gary Stevenson? I've kind of shared a ramble about Gary Stevenson. I don't subscribe to his line of thinking because I don't think that taxing, the rich is going to get us out of the mess that we're in the UK. I think we need much better leadership. I think we need a lot more people to stand up and say, hey, we can get ourselves out of this mess with some hard work and with some entrepreneurship and with some focus on local, as opposed to focusing on like we're all in this weird sort of boat together. Like I think a lot of people get distracted by the entirety of the country rather than like, okay, what can I fix right now today in my local community? And how can that make a change and like brighten someone's day and make things a bit better? And then how can I make, my business more profitable, or how can I get myself, a bit more money to be able to invest, or to invest in myself and invest in my skills in future, blah, blah, blah. And then the other thing was, why are the Greens and Labour not talking about Bitcoin at all? I don't know. I don't know why the Greens aren't talking about Bitcoin. I would assume, and this is just an assumption, it's because they still think Bitcoin is very bad for the environment, as a lot of people across the UK do. They tend to think that, Bitcoin mining is going to blow up the environment, which is, as we know, rubbish, because why does using electricity harm the environment? Well, like it does and it doesn't, right? But like, it's just plugging in something. This always reminds me of the Nissan Leaf zero emissions advert. I'm hoping that this is ringing a bell for some of you in that. Let me show my screen. Okay, we're doing it at the end. Is this going to work? Kapow, it does. Okay, so the Nissan Leaf is a zero emission vehicle because it's 100% electric running on a battery and not gasoline, which means it has no tailpipe and produces no tailpipe emissions. Replace Nissan Leaf here with the Bitcoin miner. So the Bitcoin miner is a zero emission vehicle because it is 100% electric running on a battery. It can run on batteries and not gasoline, which means it has no tailpipe and produces no tailpipe emissions. So Bitcoin mining is also a zero emission vehicle. So, you know, we can't get that worked up about Bitcoin mining when all you're doing is plugging in a bit of electricity into the wall. But yeah, I'd love to get this kind of thing in front of the Greens and particularly your party. Although I've not really heard much of your party since. I try to hang out on Blue Sky sometimes to see what's going on. But yeah, I'm not aware that they've got that much popularity. Have they got much popularity in the UK? What are the current polls saying? To the other live questions, I've got a question. Well, I've got a comment from Max. Hello, Max. I know who you are. Wink, wink. You're brave to do a live show. Thank you. I need more braveness. I need to be more fearless because next week I'm going to do more and more live shows. And then V4BTC, I know who you are as well. Wink, wink. Hello, mate. The entire legacy shithole has become optional since 2008. Correct. You no longer need to live in it. Start learning about Bitcoin and live in the future. It really is true. Like if you do adopt Bitcoin, you weirdly live in the future today. And that's kind of a wonderful thing. Like you can, it is a bit like, I'm using the money of 2035 in 2025. It's just quite fun. I'd recommend everyone does that. Bitcoin is indeed 100% clean. And David is saying I should get in touch with the Greens / your party. I would love to. That is a really nice idea. I would love to share with them some of my documentaries I've made about Bitcoin mining, in particular Bitcoin. There's one that I made about Bitcoin mining in Ireland, which is 100% green, whatever that word means nowadays. It's 100% green Bitcoin mining stuff. And you're very welcome for my answer. If you have any contacts, David, at the Greens or at your party, I'd love to be hooked up because I'm going to the UK in November, I believe, for some of the UK's Bitcoin stuff. And I am really keen to, network. God, I hate that word. I want to meet people basically and try to get the Bitcoin word out there a little bit more. Hello, Jimmy1000. You've just discovered my channel. Hello, mate. Welcome. You're in for an absolute treat. This is where we discuss the changing of the world and Bitcoin, and we try to work out why my resolution on my screen is completely messed up. We're gonna work out why soon enough. It does that, but I just don't know. I really don't know, and I'm sorry. Jonathan, if you're watching, please help me. ¿Me puedes ayudar, por favor, con la pantalla? No sé por qué no funciona. That was Japanese, by the way, guys. I speak Japanese. JK, lol, it was Spanish. Okay, I've been going for, I don't know how long now, but I believe we've got at least 33 people watching. Insane. It is absolute madness. I would love to, Jonathan's saying restart camera. Can I do that on a live thread? Maybe I'll do it for the next one. In the meantime, Machine King said, is 0.01 BTC a lot of Bitcoin? Hell yeah, it is. That is 1/21 trillionth of all the Bitcoin that will ever be mined. I think that math is wrong. Could someone correct me, please? It is 1/21. Wait, so if one Bitcoin is 1/21 millionth, then 0.1 is 1/2100 millionth, and then 0.01 is 1/21. Yeah, 2.1 quadrillionth of the entirety of Bitcoin. So yes, it is very much a lot of Bitcoin. 0.01 is much more than what 90% of, no, more than that, 98% of the planet has. So if you've got that amount, well done. Don't tell anyone about it. Make sure you secure it properly with either a hardware wallet or a multi-sig setup. The TLDR is yes, correct. Well done on your 0.01 Bitcoin. Okay. Definitely share your docs. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, mate. And Daniel Batten is an excellent orator and advocate for Bitcoin as clean energy. He is currently doing some awesome stuff in Costa Rica, and I cannot wait for him to publish it because it's going to be another just checkmate move about Bitcoin mining and Bitcoin mining being renewable and green and all those words that, you know, the mainstream likes as buzzwords, because they are just buzzwords. Like recycling isn't green yet, apparently people call it. And that's my current bugbear at the moment, because I live in a place where they're changing the recycling policies, because basically everything was being incinerated before, but they're being very quiet about it. Anywho, I have been going for about 40 minutes now. I am going to be doing this every Monday, Tuesday at 10 a.m. Lisbon time, or is it 11? I might have got that wrong. Whoopsie. In partnership with Roxom TV. I'm actually quite enjoying it, bizarrely. Sorry. It's just nice to hang out with people that enjoy my videos and enjoy talking about Bitcoin. And I'm going to use it as a space to, like an open forum, effectively. And yeah, I'm doing it with Roxom, and I'm just trying to open my calendar currently so I can see what exact time it's going to be at. Oh, it's 11 p.m. Lisbon or London time, which is currently GMT or Greenwich Mean Time. So I hope to see you all here Monday and Tuesday at 11. If it goes well, I'll do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays. So please let me know if you like this kind of thing. And yeah, we will keep hanging out and keep learning about Bitcoin, and I'll share with you my Bitcoin adventures. Jimmy1000 asks, do you know Wasabi and how it works? I do know Wasabi Wallet. Oh, sorry, my friends know about Wasabi Wallet. I personally have no Bitcoin. Wasabi Wallet is great. I know the co-founders. They are very OG, very cypherpunky, very cool. It is a wallet in which you can do coin joining relatively easily. They have removed coin joining from the desktop wallet, but it's very easy to reconnect the coin join, because Wasabi wasn't able to do it for some reason. I think it's like EU being typical EU draconian bastards. Yeah, so I will see you on Monday at 11 a.m. GMT. Thank you so much for stopping in. I really appreciate a comment. It generally is amazing to see that people are commenting and hanging out and just stopping by to say hello. That's so cool. You are not alone. Bitcoin is sick. We're going to build an orange future together. And yeah, I am going to drop a reactions video on Monday, which is going to be hilarious. I'm really looking forward to popping that. And I've just one last question. Did my question get removed? I was asking if many people in South Africa use hardware wallets. Oof, how could I know that? I could know that. Well, I can partially answer that. In the circular economies that I visited, such as Bitcoin Vitsund and Bitcoin Akazi, they go out of their way to make sure that people understand the importance of self-custody and why you should hold a hardware wallet. So in the circular economies, they are actively using hardware wallets. They zap sats with Lightning. Then when it gets to a certain UTXO amount, they then take custody of it and put it on a hardware wallet. Across the nation of South Africa, I guess that hardware use is pretty sparse, because Trezor and Ledger, I don't think they serve the entirety of the African continent. Blockstream are, I believe, starting out, because I was speaking to them last year about this. But to get a hardware wallet in Africa generally is very hard. So do many people in South Africa use hardware wallets? I guess those that are able to get to Europe or to the US to get hardware wallets, they are. But other than that, I doubt it's that popular. I doubt it's that common. It's actually one of the big things that I worry about for Africa. Ledger doesn't ship to Africa. Trezor doesn't. I know that Joseph at Trezor is actively working on this, but yeah, hardware wallets very hard to find in Africa generally. You can still use a blue wallet on your phone and write down the 12 words, and you're semi-self-sovereign. You're self-sovereign enough. You're more self-sovereign than a lot of people. But when it comes to actual hardware wallets, yeah, really tough to get your hands on these in South Africa. Okay, thank you so much, everyone, for checking in. I am going to kill this stream now and crack on with some work. Thanks again. Lots of love. And yeah, hope to hang out with you all again soon. Do what you love and save in Bitcoin. Ciao, ciao.